After finishing the last video off with the clear coat, that now has been a couple of days ago and it had enough time to cure before I could move on to applying all of the decals to the rear section that I painted in the metallic gray finish. Now there were a couple of small specks of dust in the clear coat, so those needed to be sanded out first with some 3000 grit before I started applying the decals on top of them, as all the imperfections in the paint will show through the decals and anything that can be fixed beforehand will be fixed. So I'm just carefully sanding all of those spots out and then also polishing them a little bit just to get rid of some of those scratches and not have them pop up through the carbon fiber decals after I applied them. I do want to mention though, I'm not using any polishing compounds, just a polishing or buffing wheel on my Proxxon rotary tool and no materials to go underneath the decals and possibly ruin the finish up. So just a bit and some polishing, no compounds. In order to make all of the carbon fiber decal patterns, I'm using some masking tape, a pencil, and also some scissors. I'm placing the masking tape on top of the piece I want to cover with the carbon fiber decals, making sure that is all the way in place and as easy as can be to transfer to the carbon fiber decal sheet. After I've put it in place all the way down, I mark the edges along the panel lines where I want the carbon fiber decal to be cut to. I then carefully just remove it from the panel and transfer it to the decal sheet. Some of you may know this, others might not, but carbon fiber is directional, and in this case the carbon fiber needs to be split down the middle. So I need one to go on the left and one other to go on the right and meet in the middle with a different direction. So we also need to take that into account when placing the decals, or at least your template, onto the decal sheet, that the pattern is in the correct direction. Once cut out of the sheet and the template removed, I quickly check if the size is correct and the weave is also going in the right direction. I then place it in a bath of water to soak up for a bit. Before I place the decal, I lay down a layer of micro set. This is a decal setting solution. It helps the decals stick a bit better and also to conform it gently into place and not too drastically. I place the decal, remove the backing paper, and then carefully put it into its final position before removing all of the moisture from underneath with a cotton swab. Before using the cotton swab on the decals itself, I quickly dip it into the water so that it's not as sticky and the fibers from the cotton swab don't leave imprints or are left behind on the decals itself. I then start gently rolling down the decal, removing all of the water from underneath and not sliding it out of its position. After doing that for a couple of minutes, I'm happy with the general shape and I can move on to the final shaping. This is where the decal softening solution comes in place. This is a lot harsher of a solution than the setting solution, and it can potentially ruin the decals if not used properly. I mainly focus on the edges of the decal as those still need to be bent over and also formed into the panel lines. Now it might be a bit hard to see, but there is actually a carbon fiber pattern, so here is a quick picture of that as well. And now I need to do the same thing on the other side, so I start creating the second template, and also keep in mind that this needs to have a weave in the other direction to have a nice split and a V in the middle when they meet up. With the second panel now laid down, you can start to see the V pattern that I'm trying to achieve on all of these other panels. Now I'm going to be applying the carbon fiber decals in many more pieces. I'm going to be showing pretty much all the pieces I laid down, though not in as much depth as I did before. Here and there I will add a bit of a time lapse for the application of certain panels, but I'm not going to show all the footage I have. Now I can make a separate video. I have done this in the past when I built the Lamborghini Huracan. A lot of you wanted to see the carbon fiber decal application, and I can do that in this case as well. Now, not everything is videotaped, but a lot of it has been, so I can do a quick video on a sort of time-lapse mode with all of the application and all of the footage that I still have. If you do want to see that, leave a comment down below and I will just upload a quick video. No real voiceover, just a bit of an explanation at the beginning, and that's pretty much all I'm going to do for that video. Not as in-depth as this one, just the raw footage sped up a bit. For now, I'm also going to just stop talking and show you what I'm doing instead. About the 10-minute 30 mark, I will be back as I'm going to move on to the clear coating after all the decals have been applied. the final couple of decals now being put in place, all the metallic gray areas are covered and I can move on to making all of it glossy again. Before doing that, however, I am sanding down all of the carbon fiber decal panels that are just bare paint with clear coat on it. I'm sanding out some of the imperfections that were in it. Some of the dust had to be removed, and I'm also scuffing it up to make the clear coat that will be going on top of this stick a lot better. So all of that is scuffed, the decals are put down in place as best as I can possibly get them on there. I have a nice split pattern down the middle, and I'm really happy with the way that it came out. Now do keep in mind that all different paints react different to decals, so be sure to know your products and also to know if they work together or not, and in which time frame you can use them together. Now with zero paints you can quickly move on to the next stage quickly after applying the decals, but with other paints you need to give it a lot of time to dry. I personally use a hair dryer to dry it out as best as I can, and then let it sit for a couple of days before moving on to decaling. It can be done as quickly as a couple hours later, but you do need to be sure that it can be done with your paints. In this case, I am familiar with the product, both the decals and the paint, and I know that after heating it up a couple of hours later, I can just move on to applying the clear coat. So as usual, all the hard to reach easy to forget spots were covered first, and then the rest of the body. First coat went on nice and even, so I let the airbrush sit for about 5 minutes while the clear was curing, and then moved on to a second coat, again hitting those hard to reach easy to forget spots first, and covering the rest of the body with a nice coat as well to finish this off, and before moving on to the next stage in this build, of course. The second coat is now applied, so I'm going to let that sit for about 2 to 3 days before I touch the body again. As you can see, it has a nice glossy finish all over and really makes these decals pop out a lot. Now, a lot of you might not like the carbon fiber. I personally do, so that's why I did it. The main color of the body might be a bit boring as well, but the interior will fix that all. So be sure to check out the next videos in this series, and I hope to see you next time as well.